Millionaire stunned when he sees a black beggar as a little girl shouts, "Dad, she's my mom." Richard Harding, a Wall Street titan, still felt the ache of losing his wife, Sarah, 2 years ago. A Sunday stroll through Central Park, a tradition with his daughter Lily, turned into a scene straight out of a nightmare. The crisp autumn air did little to soothe the raw wound in his heart. Lily, all pigtails and bright eyes, skipped ahead, then stopped dead. Her gaze locked onto a figure huddled near the Bethesda fountain. A homeless woman, black, face etched with the harsh realities of the street. Richard's blood ran cold. Before he could react, Lily bolted, screaming, "Mommy!" Richard's heart hammered against his ribs. "Lily, no!" He stumbled forward, a sickening dread gripping him. The woman looked up, her eyes vacant, lost. But then, a flicker of recognition. Gone in an instant. It was subtle, but it was there. That jawline, that tiny birthmark on her wrist. Details he thought he'd buried forever. Could it be? Could this be Sarah? Sarah? The word escaped his lips, a barely audible croak. The woman recoiled, fear flashing in her eyes. She didn't recognize him, didn't recognize Lily. Lily, oblivious, threw her arms around the woman. "Mommy, come home! We miss you!" A crowd was gathering. Murmurs rippled through the onlookers. Richard felt a wave of panic. He grabbed Lily, pried her loose. "Come on, sweetie. She's confused." He backed away, pulling Lily with him, but glanced back one last time. The woman was watching them, a deep furrow in her brow. Confusion, and something else. Longing? The car ride home was a blur of Lily's heartbroken sobs. "That was Mommy, Daddy! I know it was!" Richard's mind raced. He had to know. He tucked Lily into bed, promising answers. Then he raced back to Central Park. The woman was gone, vanished. Frustration turned to desperation. He needed answers, and fast. He thought back to a tense meeting with his former business partner, Mark Thompson, the week before Sarah's accident. Mark, a shady character, had pushed Richard to take some questionable deals, and Richard had refused. Could Mark have something to do with this? He made up his mind. He needed help. He needed a private investigator. Staring out into the night, a chilling thought wormed its way into Richard's mind. What if Sarah's amnesia wasn't just a tragic accident? What if someone was deliberately keeping her from remembering her past? And why? Antes de continuarmos com essa história incrível, preciso te fazer alerta importante. Muitos inscritos têm relatado que o YouTube removeu suas inscrições sem aviso. Dá só uma conferida rápida no botão vermelho aí embaixo para garantir que você ainda está inscrito no canal. Não quero que você perca nenhum conteúdo exclusivo que vem por aí. E já que você está aí, deixa aquele like poderoso que me ajuda muito com o algoritmo. E me conta nos comentários, de qual cidade você está assistindo? Adoro conhecer cada pessoa incrível que faz parte dessa comunidade. Sua participação faz toda a diferença. Vamos interagir. Staring out into the night, a chilling thought wormed its way into Richard's mind. What if Sarah's amnesia wasn't just a tragic accident? What if someone was deliberately keeping her from remembering her past? And why? He grabbed his phone, scrolling through his contacts. Jake Riley, ex-cop. Now a private investigator. The guy was expensive, But Richard needed answers, and fast. He hit dial. Riley, a gruff voice answered. "Jake, it's—" "Richard Harding. I need your help. Something's come up. Something about Sarah." They met an hour later at a dive bar downtown. Dimly lit, smoky, the kind of place Jake seemed to thrive in. Richard laid it all out. The homeless woman, Lily's reaction, the creeping suspicion that Mark Thompson was involved. Jake listened, nursing a beer. "Thompson, huh? Yeah, I know that snake. He's got fingers in a lot of pies." He paused. "Amnesia cases? They're tricky. Could be anything. I need you to find her, Jake. The woman from the park, and I need you to dig into Thompson. See what he's been up to." Jake nodded, a glint in his eye. "But this kind of thing, it can get messy." The next few days were a blur of anxiety. Richard tried to focus on Lily, tried to keep her from dwelling on the woman in the park. But she kept asking, "When are we going to see Mommy again, Daddy?" Then Jake called. "Harding, I got something. I found her, the woman from the park. She's staying at a shelter downtown. And, well, you're not gonna like this." Richard met Jake outside the shelter. He was holding a file. His face was grim. "What is it, Jake? What did you find?" Jake sighed. "Her name isn't Sarah. It's Maria. Maria Rodriguez. She's been living on the streets for a couple of years. No history of amnesia. No connection to you. At least, not that I can find." Richard's world tilted. Maria Rodriguez? It couldn't be. But Jake was thorough. He wouldn't make a mistake like this. Was Lily wrong? Was he just seeing what he wanted to see? But the birthmark. The jawline. Lily was so sure. Jake shrugged. Coincidences happen. Kids, they see what they want to see. Richard felt a cold dread creeping into his heart. Maybe he was losing it. Maybe grief was making him see things that weren't there. Then, Jake handed him a photo. "This is Thompson, taken yesterday, leaving a building in Queens." Richard looked at the picture. Mark Thompson, smirking, getting into his car. Nothing out of the ordinary. "So?" Jake pointed to the background. "Look closer, at the building." Richard squinted. It was a nondescript warehouse. But then he saw it. A small, almost invisible detail. A logo on the door. His breath hitched. It was the logo of a cosmetic surgery clinic. A high-end place known for its facial reconstruction. A bolt of ice shot through him. Facial reconstruction. Could Thompson have, before Richard could process it? Jake's phone rang. He answered, listened for a moment, his face paling. "Damn it. Okay, I'm on my way." He hung up. "What is it, Jake?" Jake looked at Richard, his eyes wide with disbelief. "It's the shelter. Maria. She's gone. Vanished. And there's something else. They found Lily's favorite doll, near her bed, the one she always keeps with her." Richard felt the blood drain from his face. Lily? Gone? Then Jake dropped the bomb. "And Harding, the police found a note. It was addressed to you." He handed Richard a crumpled piece of paper. Richard unfolded it, his hands shaking. The message was scrawled in crude block letters. "We have your daughter. If you want to see her again, drop the investigation and come alone. Tell no one. Meet us at the old pier, midnight, and Bring Sarah. Richard felt like he'd been punched in the gut. Lily gone? And that note. It was insane. He had to think. He had to be smart. "The cops," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "We need to call the cops." Jake shook his head. "No, Harding. Read the note. They said no cops. They'll hurt her." He knew Jake was right. He couldn't risk Lily. "The pier," Richard said, his mind racing. "Which pier?" "Old Pier 54, Jake replied. "The one by Chelsea. It's abandoned." Richard knew the place, a crumbling wreck of wood and steel. Perfect for a trap. "What about Maria?" Richard asked, his voice cracking. "Why?" He pulled away and ran to his car. He had to get to that pier. The drive was a blur. He imagined Lily, scared and alone. He pushed the gas pedal harder, ignoring the speed limit. He parked a block away from the pier, killed the lights, and got out. The air was cold and damp. The only sound was the creaking of the old wood and the distant wail of a foghorn. He walked slowly, his heart pounding. He could see figures in the distance, standing near the edge of the pier. He recognized one of them immediately. Mark Thompson. As he got closer, he saw Lily. She was standing next to Thompson, her face pale but unharmed. Relief washed over him. Then he saw Maria. She was tied to a chair, her eyes wide with fear. "Let her go, Thompson," Richard shouted, his voice echoing in the night. "Let my daughter go." Thompson smirked. "So glad you could make it, Richard. And you brought Sarah. Excellent." "She's not Sarah," Richard said. "Her name is Maria. You've made a mistake." Thompson laughed. "Oh, Richard, you always were so naive. There are no mistakes in my world." He nodded to one of his goons, who stepped forward and ripped the gag from Maria's mouth. "Richard," Maria screamed, "don't believe him. It's me. It's Sarah." Richard froze. "What? It couldn't be." But the look in her eyes, the desperation in her voice. "What are you talking about?" Thompson snarled. "Shut her up!" But Maria kept screaming. "Richard, it's me. Mark did this to me. He changed my face. He took my memories. He wanted to punish you." Richard stared at Maria, his mind reeling. It was Sarah? All this time, it was her? Then Thompson did something unexpected. He pulled out a gun and pointed it at Lily. "Time to say goodbye, Richard," he said, his voice cold. Richard lunged forward, but it was too late. Thompson fired, but the bullet didn't hit Lily. It hit Maria. She slumped forward, the chair falling over. She lay motionless on the ground. Richard screamed, "Sarah, no!" Then everything went black. He woke up later in a hospital bed. Jake was sitting next to him, his face grim. "What happened?" Richard asked, his voice hoarse. "Lily, is she okay?" Jake nodded. "Lily's fine. She's safe, but—" He hesitated. "But what, Jake? What is it?" Jake looked at him, his eyes filled with pity. "Thompson got away, Richard. And Maria, she didn't make it." Richard closed his eyes, tears streaming down his face. Sarah, gone again. Then Jake said something that made Richard's blood run cold. "Richard, before she died, Maria, she said something else. Something about Lily." He paused, taking a deep breath. "She said, 'Lily isn't your daughter, Richard. She's Mark's.' Richard, before she died, Maria, She said something else, something about Lily. He paused, taking a deep breath. She said, "Lily isn't your daughter, Richard. She's Mark's." The room spun. Mark's? Lily? His Lily? It couldn't be true. Maria wouldn't lie on her deathbed. But why would she say it? "No," Richard choked out. "That's not possible. Sarah, she would have told me." Jake looked down, avoiding his gaze. "Richard, I looked into it. Remember how Sarah was always traveling for work those few months before the accident? I checked the records. She wasn't where she said she was. She was with Thompson. A lot." Richard's mind was a whirlwind. He pictured Lily, her bright smile, the way she always reached for his hand. Mark's daughter? Was that why Thompson had been so obsessed, so desperate to control him? Was Lily the ultimate leverage? There has to be a mistake," Richard stammered, but even as he said the words, a cold dread settled in his stomach. He thought back to Lily's birth. Sarah had seemed distant, and there was that one time, years ago, when he'd found a crumpled photo of Sarah and Mark laughing together, hidden in the back of her closet. He dismissed it then, but now he ripped the IV from his arm, ignoring the sharp pain. "I need to see Lily." Jake tried to stop him. "Richard, you need to rest. You're in no condition." "I need to see my daughter," Richard repeated, his voice low and dangerous. He had to know. He had to look into Lily's eyes, see if he could find any trace of Mark Thompson staring back. They found Lily asleep in a waiting room, curled up on a chair, clutching her favorite teddy bear. She looked so small, so innocent. Richard knelt beside her, his heart aching. He brushed a stray strand of hair from her forehead. He studied her face, searching for any sign of Mark in her features. The way her nose turned up at the tip, the shape of her chin. He'd always thought she looked just like Sarah. But now he wasn't so sure. Suddenly, Lily stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She looked at Richard, her face lighting up. "Daddy!" she cried, throwing her arms around his neck. "I was so scared. Are you okay?" Richard hugged her tight, burying his face in her hair. He couldn't tell her. Not yet. Maybe never. "I'm okay, sweetie," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Daddy's right. Here." He pulled back, holding her at arm's length. "Lily, honey, do you remember the man from the pier, Mr. Thompson?" Lily frowned. "He was a bad man, Daddy. He hurt Mommy." Did he ever talk to you before? Ever give you anything?" Lily shook her head. "No, Daddy. He was just scary." Richard let out a shaky breath. Maybe, just maybe, Maria was wrong. Maybe it was a lie, a cruel parting shot designed to destroy him. Then Lily said something that shattered everything. "Daddy, Mr. Thompson gave me a present once. A long time ago, before Mommy, before she went away. He told me not to tell you." Richard's blood ran cold. "What was it, Lily? What did he give you?" Lily reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, tarnished silver locket. She opened it, revealing a tiny picture inside. Richard stared at the picture, his heart stopping. It was a picture of Lily and Mark Thompson, smiling, together. But that wasn't what made the picture terrifying. It was the date on the back. A date that was exactly 9 months before Lily was born. It was the date on the back. a date that was exactly 9 months before Lily was born. The world swam. Richard gripped Lily tighter, his knuckles white. A locket, a photo, the date. It all screamed one thing. He didn't want to believe it, couldn't believe it. But the evidence was right there, staring him in the face. "Daddy, what's wrong?" Lily asked, her voice small and scared. He forced a smile. "Nothing, sweetie. Everything's okay." He had to get her out of here, away from this nightmare. He scooped her up in his arms and turned to Jake, who was watching them with a mixture of pity and concern. "Take us home, Jake, please." The ride was silent. Richard stared out the window, his mind racing. He couldn't reconcile the Sarah he loved with the woman who had apparently betrayed him. And Lily, his Lily, was she just a pawn in some twisted game? He carried Lily into the house, then tucked her into bed. He kissed her forehead, his heart heavy. "Sleep tight, princess." He walked downstairs, his legs feeling like lead. Jake was waiting for him in the living room, a drink in his hand. "Richard, Don't," Richard said, holding up a hand. "Just don't." He needed to be alone. He needed to think. He needed to figure out what to do next. Jake nodded and left. Richard poured himself a stiff drink and sat down in his armchair. He closed his eyes, trying to block out the images swirling in his head. Sarah, Mark, Lily, the locket. It was all too much. Suddenly, a noise startled him. A soft creak from upstairs. He froze, listening. Lily? He crept up the stairs, his heart pounding. He reached Lily's room and slowly pushed the door open. The room was dark, illuminated only by the soft glow of the nightlight. Lily was asleep in her bed, her teddy bear clutched in her arms. But something was wrong. There was someone else in the room. Standing over Lily's bed, a figure shrouded in shadows. Richard's blood ran cold. He lunged forward, yelling, "Hey, what do you think you are doing?" The figure turned around, and Richard gasped. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't Mark Thompson. It was Sarah. But it wasn't the Sarah he remembered. This Sarah was different. Her eyes were cold. Her face was hard. And she was holding a knife. "Sarah?" Richard whispered, his voice trembling. What are you doing?" Sarah didn't answer. She just stared at him, her eyes filled with hatred. Then she raised the knife. "I'm protecting my real family, Richard." Before he could react, she lunged at Lily. Richard screamed and threw himself in front of her. The knife plunged into his chest. He stumbled backward, clutching the wound. Sarah stood over him, her face emotionless. "You never understood, Richard," she said, her voice devoid of any feeling. "You were just in the way." And then she turned and walked out of the room, leaving Richard bleeding on the floor, his daughter sleeping soundly beside him, unaware of the horror that had just unfolded. But the real kicker? As he lay dying, he noticed something on Sarah's wrist, exposed as she walked out of the room. A tiny birthmark, the one he remembered so vividly, the one Maria had. It wasn't facial reconstruction. There were 2 of them, twins, and he'd just been played in the most horrific way imaginable. He felt a burning in his chest, a cold spreading fast. He looked down, saw the blood blooming on his shirt. Sarah. She'd really done it. He coughed, a wet, gurgling sound. Everything was getting blurry. "Why, Sarah? Why?" he managed to croak. She just stared at him, no emotion on her face, like he was nothing, like Lily was nothing. Then a voice. "Mom, what's going on?" Lily. She was awake. She'd seen everything. Richard tried to say something, tried to warn her, but all that came out was a strangled gasp. Sarah turned to Lily, a strange smile creeping across her face. "Don't worry, sweetie. It's all going to be okay now. I'm protecting you from him." Richard felt a surge of anger, of protectiveness, even as the darkness closed in. He had to do something. He had to save Lily. He reached out, grabbed Sarah's leg, tried to pull her down, but he was too weak. She kicked him hard in the face. He saw stars. Then another voice, a man's voice. "Sarah, what the hell are you doing?" Mark Thompson. He was standing in the doorway, a look of shock and horror on his face. Sarah turned to him, her expression changing again. "Mark, what are you doing here? I followed you, you crazy—" Thompson yelled. "I knew you were planning something." He rushed into the room, grabbed Sarah by the arm. "Get away from her," he shouted, pulling her away from Lily. They struggled, Sarah screaming, Thompson yelling. Richard watched, helpless as the scene unfolded before him. Then, Thompson did something unexpected. He shoved Sarah away, sending her sprawling to the floor. He turned to Lily, his face softening. "Lily, are you okay? Did she hurt you?" Lily shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "Daddy." Thompson knelt down beside her, pulling her into a hug. "It's okay, honey. Daddy's here now. I won't let her hurt you." Richard stared at them, his mind reeling. What was going on? What was happening? Thompson looked up at him, his eyes filled with something. Was it pity? Remorse? "Richard," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted this to happen. She's sick, really sick." He stood up, still holding Lily close. "I should have told you everything a long time ago. But I was afraid of what she would do." He took a deep breath. "The truth is, Richard, Sarah isn't Sarah. Not anymore. She's not even my sister anymore." Richard frowned. Sister. Sarah had a breakdown. Thompson continued, his voice trembling. "A long time ago, after the real Sarah died." He paused, looking down at Lily. "The Sarah you knew, the mother of your child, she wasn't Sarah Harding at all. She was just a replacement." "Richard," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle, "I'm so sorry. I never wanted this to happen. She's sick. You everything a long time ago. But I was afraid of what she would do." He took a deep breath. "The truth is, Richard, Sarah isn't Sarah. Not anymore. She's not even my sister anymore." Richard frowned. "Sister?" "Sarah had a breakdown," Thompson continued, his voice trembling. "A long time ago. After the real Sarah died." He paused, looking down at Lily. "The Sarah you knew, the mother of your child, she wasn't Sarah Harding at all. She was just a replacement." A replacement? What in God's name was he talking about? His head was swimming. The pain in his chest was searing. He had to focus. He had to understand. What are you saying, Mark?" Richard gasped, struggling to sit up. Thompson sighed, running a hand through his hair. The real Sarah, my sister, she was killed in a car accident years ago. I was driving. I survived, she didn't. I felt responsible. I was wrecked, man. Wrecked. He looked at the woman on the floor, the woman who had just tried to kill him and Lily. Then, I met her. This woman, she looked so much like Sarah. It was uncanny. I was obsessed. I paid her to pretend, just for a little while, just to ease the pain. Thompson's voice cracked, but it got out of control. She started believing it. She started acting like she was Sarah. And then she met you. You fell in love. And I couldn't stop it. I was too weak. Richard stared at him, his mind reeling. This was insane. Completely insane. You're telling me the woman I married, the mother of my child, was an imposter? Thompson nodded, tears streaming down his face. I know it's crazy, Richard. I know. But it's true. The real Sarah, she's gone. This is just a woman who looks like her. A woman who's lost her mind. Then he looked down at Lily, who was staring at him with wide, frightened eyes. But Lily is yours, Richard. I swear to God, she's yours. I would never do anything to hurt her. Suddenly, the woman on the floor started to laugh. A high-pitched, chilling laugh that sent shivers down Richard's spine. "Oh, Mark," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You think you know everything, don't you? You think you're in control." She stood up, brushing herself off. "But you're wrong, Mark. So wrong." She looked at Lily, a cruel smile spreading across her face. "Lily isn't Richard's daughter, Mark. She's not even your daughter." Thompson stared at her, his face paling. "What are you talking about?" The woman laughed again. "Oh, Mark, you're so clueless, so easily manipulated. Don't you see? I played you both. I used you both to get what I wanted." She took a step closer to Lily, her eyes blazing with a manic intensity. "Lily is the daughter of the devil himself." Then everything went silent. Lily's eyes rolled back in her head. A dark energy began to surround her. She began to float in the air, and an inhuman voice came out from her little body. "He has come, and now you all shall pay." Thompson froze. Lily froze. Time froze. A blinding white light suddenly fills the room, and when the light fades, Lily is gone. Thompson froze. Lily froze. Time froze. A blinding white light suddenly fills the room, and when the light fades, Lily is gone. Gone. Just like that. Vanished into thin air. Thompson just stood there, mouth agape, like he'd seen a ghost. Which maybe he had. What just happened?" he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. The woman, the fake Sarah, the imposter, whatever she was, just smirked. "I told you, the devil has come." Richard tried to speak, but all that came out was a gurgle. He was fading fast. The pain was unbearable. Thompson snapped out of his daze. He looked at Richard, his eyes filled with panic. "Richard, stay with me, man. I'll call an ambulance." But Richard knew it was too late. He was done for. He looked at Thompson, then at the crazy woman who claimed to be protecting his daughter. His daughter. Or Marks? The thought sent a fresh wave of pain through him. Lily, he managed to croak, his voice weak. Protect Lily. Then, everything went black, but he wasn't dead. Not yet. He was floating, above the room, watching. He saw Thompson cradling the fake Sarah, sobbing. What have you done? What have you done? He saw his own body lying on the floor, a pool of blood spreading around him. And then he saw something that made his blood run cold. Even in death, he saw Lily. She wasn't gone. She was standing in the corner of the room, cloaked in shadows. But it wasn't Lily, not the Lily he knew. Her eyes were black, empty, soulless, and she was smiling, a slow, sinister smile that sent shivers down his spectral spine. Then she spoke. Her voice was deep, resonant, inhuman. Foolish mortals, she said, her voice echoing through the room. You thought you could control me? You thought you could stop what's coming? She raised her hand, and a bolt of black energy shot out, striking the fake Sarah. The woman screamed, her body convulsing, before collapsing into a pile of dust. Thompson cried out, scrambling backward in terror. What are you? Lily, or whatever was using her body, just laughed. I am the beginning. I am the end. I am the darkness that devours all. Then she turned her gaze to Richard and smiled. Thank you, Father, she said, her voice dripping with malice, for giving me the perfect vessel. A vessel? Father, what in God's name was going on? He looked down at his own lifeless body, then back at the monstrous thing that had taken over his daughter. He was a pawn. He'd been played from the very beginning. But by whom? And for what purpose? He had to know. He had to stop her. He had to save Lily. But he was dead, helpless, a ghost in his own house. The last thing he saw before the darkness consumed him completely was Lily, his Lily, raising her hand again. This time toward Thompson. And Thompson, he didn't run, he didn't scream. He just stood there, frozen in place, a look of serene acceptance on his face, like he knew what was coming, like he was expecting it. As the black energy enveloped Thompson, Richard heard him whisper one last word. Finally, Thompson just stood there, frozen, as the black energy consumed him. No scream, no struggle, just gone. Another pile of dust. And Lily? That thing in Lily's body? It turned to me, or where it thought I was. Up there, floating. Soon, it hissed. Its voice a twisted echo of my daughter's. Soon you will join me. We will rule this world. Together, Father. Rule? What world? What was happening? Then, a flicker. A spark of light in those black, empty eyes. Daddy? It was Lily's voice. Faint, distant, but there. Daddy, help me. I'm scared. Hope surged through me. She was still in there. Somewhere. But how? How could I reach her? I was a ghost, powerless. Suddenly, the room shimmered. A wave of energy pulsed through the air. And I was back in my body, gasping for breath, the knife wound searing in my chest, but alive. For now, Thompson and the fake Sarah were gone, reduced to dust. And Lily was kneeling beside me, her eyes wide with terror, tears streaming down her face. "Daddy, you're alive. But what happened? I don't remember." I reached out, my hand trembling, and stroked her hair. "It's okay, sweetie. It's okay, I'm here." But it wasn't okay. Nothing was okay. I was bleeding out. My daughter was possessed by something evil, and the world as I knew it had just shattered into a million pieces. Then I saw it, a glint of metal in Lily's hand, the knife, the same knife the fake Sarah had used on me. Lily was holding it. Her eyes were still filled with terror, but there was something else there too. Something vacant. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice strangely flat. "I have to protect you." And then she raised the knife. Not towards me, towards herself. "No, Lily, don't!" But it was too late. She plunged the knife into her chest. I screamed. A raw, primal scream of anguish and despair. But then, nothing. No blood. No pain. Lily just stood there. The knife embedded in her chest, her eyes still wide with terror. And then she smiled. A genuine, innocent smile. "Daddy, I feel better now. The badness is gone." She pulled the knife out of her chest, and the wound, it healed, instantly, leaving no scar, just smooth, unmarked skin. I stared at her, my mind completely blank. What was happening? What was Lily? Then she spoke. "It worked," she said, her voice clear and strong. "The prophecy is fulfilled." Prophecy? "Who are you?" I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. Lily tilted her head, a strange, knowing look in her eyes. "I am Lily," she said, "and I am the key? The key to what?" Before I could ask another question, the room started to shake. The walls cracked. The floor groaned. "We have to go," Lily said, grabbing my hand. "Now, before it's too late." Too late for what? But I didn't have time to ask. The house was collapsing around us. I grabbed Lily and ran. We stumbled out of the house just as the roof caved in. We stood there, watching as the house, my home, my life, crumbled into a pile of rubble. I looked at Lily, my heart pounding. "What was that? What's going on?" She squeezed my hand, her eyes filled with a strange mix of sadness and determination. "Everything is changing, Daddy," she said, "and we have a lot to do." Then she looked up at the sky. "They're coming," she whispered. "Coming? Who's coming?" Before I could ask, the sky ripped open, and something else came through. It wasn't a spaceship. It wasn't aliens. It was angels. But not like any angels I'd ever seen in pictures. These were terrifying. Their faces were hidden behind masks of pure light. Their wings were made of fire, and they were armed with swords of pure energy. "Where is she?" one of them boomed, its voice echoing through the sky. "Where is the child?" Lily squeezed my hand tighter. "They're here for me, Daddy," she said, "and they're not going to be happy." Then she looked at me, her eyes filled with a desperate plea. "Daddy," she whispered, "I need you to trust me. No matter what happens, you have to believe me." Believe her? After everything I'd just seen? But I looked into her eyes, and I saw something real. something pure, something Lily, and I knew I had to trust her, even if it meant facing angels. I trust you, Lily, I said, my voice shaking. I trust you. Then she smiled, a sad, knowing smile. Thank you, Daddy, she said. Now run. Run? Run where? Before I could move, Lily pushed me away. Then she stepped forward, towards the angels, and as she did, she began to change. Her eyes started to glow, her skin shimmered, and wings of pure white light, sprouted from her back. She was an angel, just like them, but different. Something more. The lead angel raised his sword. You cannot stop us, Lucifer's daughter, he boomed. Your destiny is sealed. Lucifer's daughter? Lily? My daughter? Was the daughter of the devil? Then it hit me. The fake Sarah's words. Lily is the daughter of the devil himself. It wasn't a possession. It was a birthright. But if Lily was Lucifer's daughter, then what was I? And what was Thompson? And what was the real Sarah? Or, well, whatever that was, anyway. The lead angel lunged, and Lily met him. Sword against sword. Light against light. The battle had begun. And I was caught in the middle. A pawn in a war between heaven and hell. A war that was about to be fought over my daughter. But was she even my daughter at all? A batalha começou. Luz contra luz. Inferno contra o quê? Eu? Eu não era ninguém, só um pai. Mas Lily era tudo. E aqueles anjos, eles queriam minha filha. Um grito. Lily. Ela voava lutando contra um daqueles seres. Era inacreditável. E eu ali no chão, inútil. De repente uma explosão. Uma onda de choque me jogou longe. Tudo girava. Quando consegui levantar Lily no chão. As asas sumiram. Os anjos também. Só o silêncio. Corri até ela. Lily, filha, ela abriu os olhos. Azuis. Meus. Lily, de novo. Pai, abraço apertado. Lágrimas. Alívio por um segundo. Pai, o que aconteceu? Eu não sabia, mas tinha um pressentimento. Ruim. Olhei para o céu, escuro, sem estrelas, sem anjos. Mas uma sombra, gigante, cobrindo tudo. Lily, corre. Tarde demais. A sombra desceu e engoliu o mundo. Será que era o fim? Será que Lily tinha falhado? Eu não sei, mas a história não acaba aqui. E você, aí? Achou que ia ficar sem saber o final? Que nada. Mas ó, se liga. Você precisa se inscrever agora. Se não, como vai descobrir o que acontece com Lily? Esmaga esse like agora. Mostra para essa história que você tá com ela. E nos comentários, inunda tudo com suas teorias. O que você acha que vai acontecer? Não espere nem mais um segundo. E sabe aquela galera que adora um bom mistério? Compartilhe instantaneamente com no mínimo 5 amigos. Eles precisam conhecer essa saga. Só quem é fã de verdade apoia o canal desse jeito, hein? Conto com você.